hurting my head.
The easiest way to read new Supergirl trailer is as a fun escalation of the DCU tone James Gunn and company have been building. Weird alien settings, emotional sincerity, comic book strangeness, a super dog in trouble, and Jason Momoa showing up like he was genetically designed in a lab to play Lobo, that reading is not wrong. All of that stuff is there. The trailer absolutely knows those elements are crowd pleasers. But what gives the footage real bite is the fact that Kara is not being sold as a bright mirror of Superman. She is being sold as somebody whose grief has never really stopped, and now it has a target that matters because DC has done versions of this contrast before, but rarely with this kind of clarity right in the marketing. Clark's presence in the trailer is brief but important. He is calm, grounded, concerned. The older sibling energy is obvious, and Craig Gillespie has been explicit that this film is leaning into how different their upbringings were. Superman was raised in love on Earth. Kara spent years on a fragment of Krypton watching her world die around her. That is not just backstory. That is personality architecture. It means this version of Supergirl is not starting from hope and learning responsibility. She is starting from trauma and trying to locate belonging somewhere after it. And that is exactly why the Krypto angle works so well, because Krypto is not just the cute DC dog here. He is home. Or at least the nearest surviving version of it. The trailer makes that emotional function very clear. Kara outright says, "Home is where you are, buddy." And once you understand that, Krypto stops being sidekick material and starts becoming the emotional fuse of the whole movie. If Krypton is gone, if her people are gone, if her sense of place has already been blasted out of existence, then losing Krypto is not just losing a pet. It is losing one of the last living threads connecting her to something unconditional. So when Krem poisons him and the clock starts ticking, the whole movie shifts into a much more personal mode. This is not abstract heroism. This is a woman who has already lost everything, refusing to lose. One more thing, that is where the John Wick comparison starts making sense. Not because the movie literally becomes John Wick in a cape, but because the emotional mechanism is similar. Hurt the dog and suddenly you do not just have conflict, you have permission for obsession. You have a mission charged by grief, fury, and a weird kind of moral simplicity. The trailer is very smart about this. It does not oversell Kara as a bloodthirsty avenger. It sells her as somebody who already carries deep emotional damage, then gives that damage a clear outlet. That is much stronger than generic find your destiny superhero marketing, and it gives Milly Alcock a much more interesting lane to occupy. Because what makes Alcock promising here is not that she looks like she can do intensity. A lot of actors can glare in a trailer. What is more interesting is that this footage suggests she can carry volatility without losing woundedness. Kara does not come off as polished. She comes off as raw, a little feral, emotionally bruised, and barely interested in acting like the neat corporate version of heroism some superhero movies prefer. That roughness is useful. It separates her instantly from Clark and makes the whole movie feel less like a franchise continuation and more like a tonal expansion into stranger, harsher territory. The Woman of Tomorrow source material obviously helps. Tom King and Bill Quiz. Evelyn's comic already gave DC one of the best modern Supergirl frameworks precisely because it understood that Kara works best not as female Superman, but as somebody shaped by loss, anger, and dislocation in a way Clark never was. Bringing Ruthye into the trailer reinforces that the film is not just building around Krypto. It is also using this revenge trail to pair Kara with someone whose own grief and desire for justice sharpen the movie's emotional line. Ruthye wants vengeance on Krem for murdering her family. Kara wants to save the creature who represents the closest thing she has to home. Put those missions together and you get something much more combustible than a standard team-up quest. And then there is Jason Momoa's Lobo, which, let's be honest, is the easiest thing in the world to market. The trailer does exactly what it should with him. It lets him crash into the movie at full volume, jokes flying, chain swinging, and all his manic bounty hunter energy intact. Momoa has wanted to play Lobo forever, and every frame of this trailer makes it obvious that he knows exactly how absurd and enjoyable this character is supposed to be. More importantly, the movie appears smart enough not to let him hijack the central emotional narrative in while using him as a giant burst of flavor. That is the right move. Lobo should feel like chaos entering the frame, not like the frame secretly belongs to him. Matthias Schoenaerts Krem, meanwhile, does not have to do a ton in the trailer to be effective. He just has to be hateful enough, and that is really all the trailer needs from him right now. Poison Krypto, carry yourself like a real threat, and let the audience understand that you have crossed the wrong woman at exactly the wrong time. Sometimes a trailer villain does not need a monologue. Sometimes all they need is one action nasty enough to ignite the entire emotional logic of the movie. Krem seems to be serving exactly that function here, and if Schoenaerts brings the right icy menace to the full film, that could be more than enough. What I also like is that the trailer does not reduce Supergirl to pure anger. It keeps circling back to identity. Find your place in the universe is not just a slogan here, it is the thesis. Kara's adventure looks bigger and rougher than Clark's, not simply because the set pieces are more cosmic, but because the emotional question is harsher. Superman's recent story was about embracing humanity without being diminished by his alien origin. Supergirl's looks more like a search for somewhere to stand after your origin has already been obliterated. That difference gives the DCU some real texture if they can maintain it, and visually. The trailer seems to understand that this movie should feel less polished and more lived. There is dirt under the fingernails here. Strange planets, rough edges, a more battered, less pristine comic book cosmos. That fits Craig Gillespie's instincts well. He is usually at his best when characters feel slightly jagged and environments feel like they have history pressing against them. Supergirl seems to be leaning into that rather than trying to become another sleek digital space opera. Good. Kara's story should feel a little scraped up because she is. That is why I think this trailer lands harder than I expected. It has the surface pleasures, Krypto, Lobo, explosions, flying, DC iconography. But underneath that, it is pushing a very clear emotional frame. This is a story about a woman who has never really had her people, trying to protect the last bond that still feels like one. And once that bond is threatened, the movie stops being just an interstellar adventure and becomes something much more intimate, angry, and specific. That is a better hook. So where do I land on Supergirl after this trailer? I think it looks like one of the smartest tonal pivots the new DCU could make. It expands the universe without flattening its characters into one shared emotional mode. It lets Clark stay Clark while making Kara something raw. It uses Krypto for more than cuteness. It lets Ruthye add moral pressure. It lets Lobo bring chaos. And most importantly, it understands that the best way to make Supergirl feel distinct is not to make her bigger than Superman. It is to make her hurt differently. That is the real power in this trailer, and if the movie can actually follow through on that, then Supergirl could end up being much more than the second chapter in a new franchise. It could be the point where the DCU proves it knows how to let its heroes carry different emotional weather. That is when a universe starts feeling alive. So now I want to know what you think. Does this trailer make Supergirl look like DC's roughest and most emotionally charged hero yet? Or do you think the Krypto danger angle is doing too much of the heavy lifting? And more importantly, is Jason Momoa's Lobo the secret weapon here? Or is the real surprise simply how effective Milly Alcock's wounded, volatile Kara already looks in trailer form? That is the real question, and June 26th is getting closer.